10 random magic cards rated, day number 199. I had no idea we'd come so far. I kind of lost track during Ether Drip preview season and all that. And on that note, since I sit down to batch a brand new fresh week of videos, will that practice evaluating cards over this week of previews be good for me, or will it actually be bad? Will we encounter the pitfall of me putting these cards in the context of standard too much? That happens sometimes during preview season. Or will we succumb to a little bit of delirium ad exhaustium, as it were, because I do not sleep during preview season. Who sleeps? Ever. Who does that? So let's, with all that kind of set up, let's go ahead and see what the first card of the day is on a beautiful Sunday evening. Hey everybody, it's Kayla's Command. This is 3 mana, 1 and 2 white for a sorcery. Choose 2 of these options. Either create a 2/2 colorless construct artifact creature token, or put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. It gains double strike till end of turn. You can also search your library for a basic plains, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle up, or you gain 2 life and scry 2. So you had 2 of these options. Sounds pretty good, but the card sees like very, very, very little play. I can't say it sees no play because every now and again somebody just busts it out in the arena, but for the most part you don't really see this thing, and there's a reason for that, you know. I guess it can make a 3/3. That's the floor of the card. You know, but honestly, the floor is like somewhat elevated here. You know, go get your next land drop is okay. Gain 2 life, scry 2 to set up your draw. That's okay. You know, get a body is fine. Like, maybe if you have a good attack step set up, you know, giving a creature double strike could be very cool. But it just hasn't really added up to much in standard. We've had better options in this at most turns while the card's been legal, and it's going to rotate out before too much longer, right? Towards the end of this year. So I'm not sure the card's ever going to do too much in standard, but it is a neat card. I like modal cards. Like, none of the options are straight up bad. So I've always had like kind of a little place in my heart for Kayla's Command, but that doesn't mean I put it in my decks very often. I'm going to give this a 4.2 because just on like value alone, I guess like, it's fine, but it never gives you like the returns that you really want, right? It's never as impactful as you'd like. But I think 4.2 is about right. I do. Move on to Gandalf, Friend of the Shire. This cool little art here. This is a 4 mana, 3 and a blue, 2/4 flash legendary avatar wizard. You may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. Whenever the ring tempts you, if you chose a creature other than Gandalf, Friend of the Shire, as your ring bearer, draw a card. So draw a card whenever the ring tempts you, and quicken. Be sick. Just like a cool little package, all things considered. I like this art from Bakshi, I guess Ralph Bakshi, and his art team from back in the day. Altogether, neat little card. I'll say that much. I really like Quicken effects, and I especially like when you can cast the Quicken effects at instant speed itself. So you can just do like a whole bunch of stuff at the end of somebody's turn or whatever. Like an interesting commander, depending on how you position yourself. So that's kind of cool. I'm not a huge fan of the ring tempting you as a mechanic. But at the same time, like, draw a card whenever that happens could be really, really cool. So altogether, neat guy, but is he actually worth it most of the time? Is he? I'm going to ask the audience here. I feel like, you know, I haven't batched videos in a week. I feel like it's been too long since I've asked you guys. How do you feel about this version of Gandalf? There's a couple out there that I do kind of like. There's like a mono white Gandalf that I think is pretty cool. And this guy I think is cool, but I'm not sure he's actually good. But cool will actually elevate you like a 1.5 in my books. With that in mind, and with you having had ample time now to rate the card if you'd like to in the comments section, what do we give Gandalf? F of the S. GFS. I'm going to give this... I've already used 4.2 this video. I'm just going to do 4.2 every time. I actually think this is like a 4.45. You know, I just feel like there's too much shenanigans to get up to. I like having Quicken in the command zone, and there's other ways you can do it, right? But the little dude's pretty cool. He is. We'll move on to, oh wow, Bottle of Sultan from Arabian Nights. It'll cost you about $38, unless you want the revised edition one, in which case that'll be 65 cents. That's not a bad deal. What does this card do in the Oracle text? This is 4 mana for an artifact, pay 1, sacrifice Bottle to flip a coin. If you win the flip, create a 5/5 colorless Djinn artifact creature token with flying. If you lose the flip, Bottle of Sultan instead deals 5 damage to you. So, it's 5 mana for a 5/5 flyer, maybe. Maybe. And like, if you're playing against aggro or something, do or die here. I mean, You might just deal the last 5 damage to yourself and lose. This card's really bad. So bad. Although it is an Arabian Nights rare you can grab for less than $40, so that's like somewhat noteworthy, but you can grab it for less than $40 because it's like pretty embarrassingly terrible. So I'm going to give this card like a 1.3. And that's just because like sometimes it makes 5/5, but there's way better ways of doing that, aren't there? This is really bad. I should really give this booby prize, right? I should give this like a -2 or something. This is a really bad Magic card. Tailswipe is up next from Dominaria United originally, but this is the store championship version. It looks pretty cool. A single green mana for an instant. Choose a creature you control and a creature you don't control. If you cast this spell during your main phase, the creature you control gets +1/+1 till end of turn, and then them creatures fight each other, don't they? All right, so for some reason, this is 74 cents from Dom United and like 30 cents everywhere else, and that makes like no sense whatsoever. I do like this store champs art. Still, this is just like a fine fight effect a little bit, right? It's instant speed, and it's kind of a prey upon, but it's like always better than a prey upon because it's either going to be instant speed or it's going to make your creature slightly more swole before they get in the ring together. So, I don't know. Prey upon's not an amazing card. This isn't either, but at least it's a step up. I like green fight and bite effects, especially bites, but this isn't that. I like green fights that are 1 mana, right? I think that's they all kind of need to be 1 mana and have upside for that matter. And this kind of ticks all those boxes. So I will give this a solid 5. I'll give this right out of 5. This is the kind of removal spell that green likes some of the time, right? We'll move on to Ardent Elementalist. Was that too high? I don't think so. Ardent Elementalist was an Innistrad Midnight Hunt, apparently. It's 4 mana, 3 and a red for a 2/1 human shaman. When it ETBs, return an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. That is a good text box right there, Bubba. This card never saw any play in Standard whatsoever, and such that I completely forgot it ever existed in the first place. That's the thing that happened. But I always like this text box. Or what is it, Archivist or Archaeologist? Archivist? No, I forget. That text box. Archaeomancer? What is it? It's got the text box where you can just bring a thing back. And instant or sorcery coming back from your yard to your hand is actually kind of sick. But obviously this is a 4 mana 2/1, so it's just never going to be great. But for what it's worth, you can, blink this and reanimate this, bounce and play it again, and like that could set up combos or whatever. So I'm just never going to hate creatures like this, ever. So I'll just go 3.5, kind of leave it at that. You'll almost never put this in anything, but like, ability's better than like it seems, and it seems okay, right? Corrupted Crossroads is up next from Oath of the Gatewatch. This is a land. It somehow comes into play untapped and adds a colorless mana to your mana pool when you tap it, but you can also tap it and pay a life to add a mana of any color to your mana pool. Catch is, you can spend only mana, or you can spend this mana to cast a spell with Devoid. It's the only way that you can actually spend that mana. Pretty bad. I think we can all agree that's terrible. I will say that if you're building like Eldrazi specifically, then like maybe, but that's like the only case the card's good. But you guys know how much I like untapped lands, especially lands that like can tap for any mana. So I'll give it like a 5. I'll throw 5. I got 5 on it indeed, as the song once said. Because in those Eldrazi decks, it's just good. It's just always going to be one of the better lands you can play. It's pretty sick. Pretty sick card. Ooh, Disdainful Stroke is up next. I like Disdainful Stroke, and this is actually my favorite DS art of all time. This is 1 and a blue for an instant. Counter target spell with converted mana cost 4 or greater. Pretty clean. Counters a lot of really relevant stuff, obviously. This is more meant for, formats like Standard. And even to an extent Commander, because people are always trying to, resolve haymakers in that format. So it's not often that you get the, 2 hands joining meme. Like one hand is Standard, the other hand is Commander. But you can play this in Commander if you feel like it. I feel like there's probably better ways to add counterspells to your deck, like more efficiently than a Disdainful Stroke. But you probably have a lot of high-profile targets in that format for a card like this. So, could be worth it. Either way, I think this is a perfectly serviceable counterspell. So I'm going to go 4.7 on Disdainful Stroke. Obviously, its restrictions, are a hindrance. But as far as, counter spells with conditions, it's still pretty playable, especially outside of sideboards. We'll move on to, it's Savannah. It's Savannah. Okay, so we've already done, this is a particularly interesting one because it's the, I was going to say Italian, but this looks like not Italian. Whatever that means. It looks like French. I'm not actually too sure what that looks like, to be honest. I'm a dumb American. But this is Savannah. We've already done the dual lands, and these are the best of all time. I think that I gave them like a 9.9 or something, because that's what they deserve. I wouldn't go all the way to 10, but are these the best lands ever printed? Probably not, actually. I'm not convinced these are straight up the absolute best lands ever printed, period, point blank, end of story. There's obviously Mana Crypt, and there's even like City of Brass, so not too sure. But these do have the land types. They're fetchable. But I keep them just under a 10 because, they're not Ancestral Recall, and they're not Black Lotus, and they're not Moxen, right? So I'd have to be convinced to give them 10s. I would. But we'll move on to Basilica Shepherd here. This is from Phyrexia Albo. This is 5 mana. Albo drop. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 white for a 3/3 Phyrexian Angel with flying. And when it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colorless might artifact creature tokens with toxic 1 that cannot block. So it makes 2 of those guys. So I had to pause to laugh at my cleverness. It was very stupid. Albo macaroni would be the better way to make that word sound like elbow. But in that case, this card is cheese. In that it's not the good kind of cheese like you want. The bad kind of cheese that never quite melts. You got it from the dollar store. I will say this puts 5 total power on 3 bodies into play. So there was a point where this card, especially at common, would have been like kind of interesting in like a Cloud Goat Ranger kind of way. Does anybody get that reference anymore? We used to like this card called Cloud Goat Ranger, but it's completely ineffectual at this point in Magic history. But, a board in a box of sorts. And I've always kind of liked these cards, but in this case, them not being able to block is like, it's so bad. It's so terrible. But at least it's a common, so I imagine it was kind of neat in the limited environment. But that said, I'll just give the card like a 2.7 because you're never going to play it ever. There's probably no reason. I guess it puts 3 Phyrexia into play. Is that a thing? Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. But move on to, Panacea. Pretty bad card from Mercadian Masks, but it's always caught my eye. I like the Donato Giancola art. 4 mana for an artifact. You can pay 2x and tap it to prevent the next X damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. Isn't that terrible? Isn't that just one of the worst cards you've ever seen in your life, actually? It's so bad, dude. So how much do I have to spend to prevent a bolt? 6? I have to spend 6 in a tap to prevent a bolt. I guess if you have all the mana in the world and sort of a pillow fort turbo fog kind of, but even then it's it's pretty hard to justify. There's a reason this card's only been printed once, although it is kind of lame that like the word Panacea was taken in Magic the Gathering. It was taken by this card. It could have been so much better. Could have been reprintable a bunch of times because, Panacea is such a wide concept in the world of fantasy. But no, it's whatever this piece of garbage is. So let's just give it a 1.1, kind of move on. I like seeing bad cards from time to time. Theoretically, final card of the day is Blazing Archon. We have done this card before. It is gross. This is 9 mana for a 5/6 Archon with flying. Creatures cannot attack you. Nice. Originally printed in Ravnica, City of Guilds. Boy, that set had a lot of fun cards, man. Creatures can't attack you. Used to be a Commander All-Star. Probably don't really see that much played. Speaking of Turbo Fog and Pillow Fort and whatever, this is a guy. I can't remember what we gave this guy. There's a dude that follows this series, or at least he followed for a long time, that does a spreadsheet. I'd like to know, if you break your spreadsheet out, I'd like to remember what we rated this card, because I cannot remember. But if it was any less than a 6, I was probably wrong. Actual final card of the day is Innocent Blood, a black mana for a sorcery. Each player sacks a creature. Simplicity. In Commander, this is a single black mana to get rid of 4 bodies. One of them's yours, but maybe you don't even have a creature out because, it's like turn 2. So, you play this, you just get rid of like 3 guys, and that seems okay, depending on what the turn order is. Either way, this could be a 3-for-1 fairly easily. And like, yikes. Pretty good. In a single mana, you can easily double or triple spell. It takes out like hexproof stuff like really early in the game if they decided to get nasty on you. Just a very, very good card. I think even to this day, this is a fine card. You play it on turn 7 and like, oh, people are coming down on board presence. Everyone is. So, I don't know. I still like this. I still like this a lot. I'm going to give Innocent Blood a 6.1. I'm pretty high on removal today, but it's because it deserves it. I'm telling you, if you've never seen Innocent Blood resolved, like this could be a massive, just like, even in 1v1s again, just like, you know, it doesn't target anything, which, you know, can save you some headache in a multitude of ways. So early in the game, you know, turn 1, turn 2, this can really absolve you of a lot of problems and allow you to still cast a spell, you know, aside from that. So good card altogether. But that is it for today. Although I will say first day back batching. I've been reviewing cards all week. I'm in practice here. You know, I've been hitting the old heavy bag. So I think I got one more in me. Bonus card today is Invasive Surgery. From Shadows over Innistrad, a single blue mana for an instant, counter target sorcery spell. So it has Delirium. So if you've hit Delirium, then you can also search the graveyard, hand, and library of the spell you countered's controller for any number of cards with the same name as the spell you countered, and then exile the cards and blah, blah, blah. So it's one of these where you just get to take all the copies of the thing that you exile. If there's an important sorcery in a format, then I guess it's pretty good. But if there is an important sorcery in like Pioneer or Modern, I guess people haven't rediscovered this card. So here, have it. But even then, I'm not sure that it's great. But there's like a combo where the sorcery just wins the game, then like this is obviously crazy. But in Commander, this obviously does nothing. Like counters a sorcery for a single mana. There's better ways of doing that, I think. And then I don't think you're gonna hit anything with the Delirium ability. plus like even if you can, like you're in 1v1 and you can hit something good with the Delirium ability, you still have to like get Delirium, which is super lame. So I don't know. 1 mana counterspell is always going to be something that piques my interest, but this is obviously a little more Christmas land than it looks, you know what I mean? So whole games go by, nobody casts a sorcery sometimes. So I'm just going to put like a 3.6 on this because there's a lot of potential there, but it's probably never going to actually live up to it. It waits patiently for a sorcery to break a format so it can be like, hello, you know what I mean? But that's all we have for today. Let me know how you felt about all the stuff, including the Gandalf that I asked you about, and I'll see you bright and early Monday morning. The audio is fixed. I forgot to mention that. The audio is fixed. Hallelujah. It's going to be like this all week, everybody. Get used to the butter. But anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.